Everything is going well as planned.
I heard my husband's voice from the living room when I went home to get something I had forgotten. If all goes well, our daughter-in-law will soon be out of the picture, haha. I also heard my mother-in-law chiming in. It was shocking to realize they had been harboring such hatred against me, to the point of planning my demise after all the time we had spent living together. Under normal circumstances, I might have confronted my husband and mother-in-law right there, but due to my profession, I chose not to. That day marked the start of my struggle to expose their malevolent actions. My name is Michelle Kimball. My husband Dave, who was 3 years my senior, and I got married 3 years ago. Our paths crossed at a traffic safety class held at Dave's workplace. At that time, I was a police officer working for the traffic department. As it was my first traffic safety class, and as I am not particularly good at public speaking, I was quite nervous. Dave was the one who helped me out then. We struck up a friendship after that, thanks to the memorable conversation he initiated to help ease my nervousness. Years have passed since our wedding, but we still do not have any children. I had always wanted a child soon after getting married, but Dave was not particularly enthusiastic about it.
Child rearing is costly. We need to save up a bit more,
he would say. Despite us both having jobs and not facing financial instability, he always dodged conversations about having a child. And I am not the only one bothered by our childless state. My mother-in-law, Judy, was also constantly worried about us not having a child. In the beginning, she was hopeful for a grandchild, but as 3 years passed, she seemed to think that I was the one rejecting the idea of having a child. Michelle, you're not young. You better get a move on. If a woman can't bear her husband's child, she's no different from a maid. I am not intentionally not having a child. When I relayed what Judy said to Dave, he would always get grumpy.
What? Are you trying to say that I'm at fault here? I'm tired from work and you're just adding to it. If you really want a kid, why don't you try harder?
He would always start criticizing my appearance in detail. Furthermore, his preference is the flamboyant fashion of young girls, something that is not quite suitable for a woman nearing her 30s like me. I've told him countless times that I can't dress up too much due to my job requiring sudden call-outs, but he just doesn't seem to understand.
A wife who doesn't take care of her appearance is a failure as a woman. Reflect on yourself before complaining to me.
I regretted my decision to marry him, as I hadn't known that the once kind-hearted Dave could have such a nasty mindset. 2 years after our marriage, my division at work changed, and so did my work schedule. As our days off rarely matched, we gradually spent less and less time together as a couple. Despite struggling to synchronize our days off, Dave would casually schedule something else. You're bailing on me again? We planned to go to the movies together since last week.
Sorry, I was suddenly invited to go fishing with some girls from work yesterday. They said they were scared to bait the hook and they needed me. Sorry, but this is part of my job too.
While he voices words of reflection, his expression is smirking. Because of my husband, who goes off to have fun on his own accord, all of my anticipated plans were consistently betrayed. Even when I'm feeling lousy and just want to enjoy a quiet day at home, my mother-in-law always seems to show up unannounced. Oh, where's Dave? He's gone fishing. Apparently some girl asked him to go. Well, I suppose he'd rather play with other girls than be with you. I don't want to deal with my mother-in-law who says such things without any consideration for my feelings, but I can't just ignore her and go out. So this is how my weekends disappear, listening to her snide remarks. You two really don't seem like you're going to have kids. You should be more proactive. You're the wife, right? I'm trying my best, but Dave doesn't seem very enthusiastic about it because of money issues. Money? So how much are you earning now? Even though she asked me, I hesitated to disclose such private information to my mother-in-law. Reluctantly, I told her a slightly lower figure than what I actually earn, and she smirked, seemingly disappointed. Oh, compared to what I expected, it's quite less. Well, I'm just a public servant after all. You want a child even though you're on such a low wage. How can you even say that? What is she comparing with, I wonder? I'd appreciate it if she wouldn't compare a public servant to some rich person, but something about my mother-in-law's demeanor at this time bothered me. And this doubt was just the prologue to the story that was about to unfold. From that day, my mother-in-law started openly harassing me. She started visiting more often, almost half the days of the week. Once, when I came home from work, she had let herself in with a spare key and was conspicuously cooking dinner. Oh, you prioritize work over home even though you're a housewife. Women without children really do have it easy. Maybe because I have to eat meals full of her nasty remarks, I always feel sick afterwards. And then there are times when she rudely wakes me up when I'm sleeping until noon after a night shift. How long are you going to sleep? You're disqualified as a wife if you sleep until noon because of a job you chose. No wonder men want to have other women. I was being forced to eat breakfast no matter how much I protested. Gradually, everything I ate started to lose its flavor, sometimes even tasting bitter. This went on for over a month, and with the stress and lack of sleep, I became so fatigued that even eating at home resulted in a run to the bathroom. Seeing my wary face, instead of showing concern, Dave made it obvious that he was annoyed.
You look so downcast all the time, it brings me down too. You've handed all the housework over to Mom, at least try to look cheerful,
He'd say. My mother-in-law always comes and nitpicks whenever I'm too busy to do the housework. You've noticed that, right? But despite my words, Dave would just ignore me and watch TV. He wouldn't listen to me, but he would laugh at the trivial talk that celebrities were having on TV, which made me explode with frustration. Dave, you've stopped making eye contact and talking to me recently. You even started canceling plans with me on your days off. Are you having an affair?
An affair? What an accusation.
At my words, Dave suddenly raised his voice.
I have work obligations. It's easy for you to say without knowing the hardships. Or are you feeling this way because you're the one having an affair?
He suddenly erupted, his face turning beet red. I was so taken aback by his outburst that I couldn't say anything in response. Moreover, Dave lashed out and smashed a vase that was on the table, the shards scattering all the way to my feet. That's way too much, even for you, I said. But for the first time, I felt scared of my husband. Since then, things like that kept happening over and over again, making me restless even when I was just at home. One day, due to work circumstances, I had to be away from home for a few days. On the day of my business trip, I left the house but realized I had left my important planner at the front door. I rushed back home to retrieve it. But the day before, we had a fight over his comment,
"Must be nice going on a trip without doing any housework,"
so I felt awkward about seeing him again. So when I returned home, I quietly opened the front door. And there were Judy's shoes. Not wanting to see my mother-in-law either, I gently picked up my planner from the shoe cabinet and was about to leave when I overheard their conversation.
"We've got everything we need. Everything's going as planned."
"She'll be pushing daisies soon, ha ha ha."
"Yeah, but the effects are not showing up as expected."
"She's been rushing to the toilet every meal. It should be soon, right?" I couldn't believe my ears at their chilling talk. What on earth? Quickly, I took out the voice recorder I always carry and started recording. Unaware that they were being recorded, the two in the room were cheerfully discussing their outrageous plan.
"Maybe we should increase the life insurance payout. That should be enough to pay off Mom's debt, right?"
"That would help. You wouldn't have to see her ugly face every day." I was so shocked I caught my breath. I can't believe they're thinking of such things, even if they don't like me. Furthermore, I heard them laughing disdainfully, saying, "Even if we tell the cops, the traffic cop won't suspect a thing." Gradually, anger overwhelmed my sadness, and I vowed to take revenge on them. After that, I spent time on the business trip pondering on how to get back at my husband. Perhaps due to my gloomy demeanor, my colleagues expressed their concern, and I ended up venting to them. That's when I heard an unexpected piece of information from one of them. Apparently, a little while ago, there was a call about a drunk causing a ruckus in a gentleman's club. When they rushed to the scene, the man causing the disturbance was none other than Dave. He was someone who had attended our wedding, so they immediately recognized his face.
"She's my girlfriend. Anyone who touches her gets a punch."
Dave had held one of the female employees of the club tightly, causing a scene by kicking tables and causing a ruckus as he pleased. Moreover, it wasn't just a drunken declaration. It seemed like they were genuinely in a relationship. I knew he was cheating. Somehow, all of my husband's past actions suddenly made sense. Surprisingly, I didn't feel much shock. Rather, I felt energized to thoroughly investigate my husband's infidelity. Watch out, I won't let this go as it is. A week later, suddenly, my husband started speaking to me in a gentle tone, as he did when we first started dating. Suspicious that he must have some ulterior motive, he presented me with a document.
"Michelle, you always do such a dangerous job with the police, and that's amazing. I'm proud as a husband, but I can't help but worry. However, it would be problematic if something were to happen, or if you were to become the target of a grudge."
To my surprise, it was an application form for life insurance. I was convinced that he was planning to implement their plan. Still, I wanted to believe in Dave one last time. "Do you really think so? Am I at risk of being targeted? If that happens, would you worry about me, Dave?" I stared straight into his eyes. "Please reconsider," I pleaded, but my husband nodded with a broad smile.
"Of course, that's why. Sign this application form quickly."
I wonder if all he sees in me now is the life insurance payout he would get in exchange for my life. He's a good-for-nothing man to the end, but thanks to him, I felt that I could carry out my punishment without any reservations. Well, in this world, you never know who might be out to get you.
That's right. There are so many dangerous incidents these days.
For example, having a family member with a foolish idea.
Oh? Oh, yeah.
Like planning to get rid of a nuisance wife to be with a young mistress. Dave was clearly disturbed, his eyes darting around nervously. Being instigated by a debt-ridden mother to send the daughter-in-law to the other world with a large life insurance policy.
What? Wait a minute, are you?
I played the recording from the voice recorder in front of my husband. Out from it came my mother-in-law's conversation and crude laughter, distorting my husband's face grotesquely.
Hey, how did you get this recording?
I happened to overhear it. It was a good thing I was carrying a voice recorder. If I'd always been a traffic cop, I wouldn't carry one around.
Aren't you still in the traffic department?
I'm in the detective division now. I told you, didn't I? Well, I guess you weren't listening since you were too preoccupied with a certain woman. I confronted my husband Dave with photos of his affair that he had hidden in his room. These were all undeniable evidences I found while rummaging through our house when he wasn't around.
What? I don't know anything about these photos. I don't even know this woman.
Oh, really? She seems to be a girl working in a high-end nightclub. You don't know her? The club where you got drunk and caused a scene? Apparently, you were shouting that she was your woman. How charming.
How much do you even know?
Well, I wonder how much, haha. Cornered, Dave desperately began to make excuses, not caring about appearances anymore.
It's all my mom's fault. After she heard about me dating the nightclub girl, she started saying that I should marry her instead of you, who earns less. She was the one who tempted me.
I see. Dave's words made sense to me. When my mother-in-law Judy heard about my salary and called it low, she must have been comparing it to Dave's mistress. According to the conversations I recorded with a voice recorder, Judy had a substantial amount of debt. It's foolish to think that they were planning to use my life insurance payout and the nightclub girl's income to pay off that debt. So, you're saying the plan came from your mom?
Yes, so I'm not to blame.
What are you talking about? The whole thing started because you had an affair in the first place. It's despicable to blame others. I'll never forgive you. As I yelled, Dave suddenly let out an incomprehensible scream and grabbed my collar. But I quickly grabbed his hand and threw him onto the floor. I'm a police officer, Dave. I'm used to dealing with violent men like you. I can protect myself without life insurance. In front of Dave, who was groaning in pain from hitting his back, I took out my handcuffs. You're under arrest.
That's a joke, right?
Seeing the handcuffs, Dave suddenly became weak and started apologizing.
I'm sorry. It was just a moment of weakness. Please forgive me.
Save your excuses for the police station. I'll listen to them thoroughly when the time comes. Eventually, Dave and Judy were imprisoned for a while for their plot to make me an outcast. I divorced Dave and sued both him and his mistress for $20,000 in emotional damages. They might be released soon as it was an attempted crime, but with Dave losing his job, having to pay the emotional damages and Judy's debt, they will undoubtedly face a tough life. Meanwhile, I'm thoroughly enjoying living alone for the first time in years. Having been forced to live a cramped life for so long, I decided to spread my wings for a while.